Hello there, dearest friends. What Culture's Adam Clery here, and gee boy whiz, oh gosh darn howdy, I had forgotten what it's like to wait a full week for another episode of television. Game of Thrones really was a long time ago. But yes, those 7 days have dragged on and on and on and on into the infinite blackness of space it went as we waited for the follow-up episode to last week's premiere of Star Trek Picard: Remembrance. And I mean, given how quickly last week's episode just flew past us, it was a lot like coming directly out of warp speed and just kind of floating around. For a little bit of a float around we did until this week's episode has arrived and, well, now we're talking. So what do we know going in? Well, Dahj was literally exploded right in front of us, but Picard believes there is another, a twin sister of sorts, out there somewhere in the universe, possibly a result of Commander Maddox's sort of cloning data from these remnant cells of his, or possibly not, we don't really know, but he's going to find out. So let us find out ourselves then, because my name is Adam Clery, and these are all the ups and downs to Star Trek Picard Episode 2, Maps and Legends. Now, if you cast your minds back to last week, I did say that the Abrams-verse directing of Picard, especially the space stuff, would probably divide people, and if you were on the side that didn't like that, then you probably really hated these opening few shots, because they were pretty much directly lifted from the J.J. Abrams school of shooting things in space. Now, I really like that, but if you don't, then, well, it sucked. Tell you what, though, it was nice just to get a sneak peek, a little look at Starfleet's vessels this stage in the timeline. They're all very sleek and very angular. We don't really get a proper look at them, but it was still nice. And what do we get in this opening scene? Well, if you're fairly unfamiliar with what happened on Mars as a prelude to Star Trek Picard, where the synths get past the defense network and they lay waste to the planet, it's still on fire, etc., etc., this is a good look at it. F8, our friendly neighborhood android or synth or whatever the hell he's going to be called, he murders a lot of people, and it's really bad. It's actually a great scene, this, because it does underline the creepy disconnect between humans and synths, and does go some way to explaining precisely what it was happened on Mars. It was a Hollywood-scale introduction to the show, and I'm giving it a firm up. And the thing was, this was quintessentially Star Trek. It is the Utopia police shipyards, it is people working for the Federation, it is Mars, etc., etc., but it had real cold-blooded murder in it, real graphic, violent, cold-blooded murder, and a swear word. I'm really not used to hearing that in Star Trek, but more on that later. Back to the show proper though, and Picard and Laris head to Dahj's apartment to examine it, to basically do their own episode of Cold Case, and this is really where the episode kicked into life. Now, if you did not read the Countdown graphic novel series that led us into Star Trek Picard, then absolutely fair enough, there are only so many hours in the day. Laris is a former Tal Shiar operative who defected, was rescued by Picard, and now works on the Vineyard because, well, it's just safe for her there. But she is a brilliant character. We see throughout this episode that she's not just plucky, not just resourceful, not just sparky, but she's not afraid to stand up to Picard. She's very much his equal, despite living in his care. I'm going to give her an up entirely of her own for this episode, because she's just brilliant when she's pushed to the very forefront of it. Some of the dialogue is excellent. Some of the Federation Romulan banter that they have is really good. Like Picard going, "Oh, using that clever Romulan scanner thing, are you? Well, just a heads up, they're not actually very reliable." And she goes, yes, we know. That's what we wanted you to think. Zing. And, right, when are we going to address at any point that this is an Irish Romulan? Because not only does she have an Irish accent, fair enough, she might have learned English from an Irish person or something along those lines, but she literally says, "cheeky f***ers." Can I say that on this channel? F***ers? It's a quintessential Irish swear word. You f***er, you cheeky f***er. She's a Romulan, and she says that. And when are we going to talk about this? Like, don't get me wrong, I really enjoy it, but where does this go? How far can you take this? Can she end up in a bit of a scrape and end up giving it the old, oh, tut-tut-tut-tut, or like something else from Mrs. Brown's Boys? Who knows? And before you get in the comments and you're like, whoa, Clery, you can't really be doing Irish impressions like that, Google where the surname Clery comes from, alright? I'm allowed. And after certain revelations are made and then not made and then made again in Dahj's apartment, we go right the way back to the Borg Cube, the ancient artifact reclamation thing, whatever the Romulans are calling it, and now we're talking with the pace. Now we're talking with the story. Like I said last week, that the episode just flew past us and it felt like they were trying to get us caught up on some decades worth of lore all in the space of 40 minutes, and as a result, the story felt like it was all over the place. It felt more like required reading to watch Picard than it did the first episode of Picard, but this felt more like a first episode than last week did, which is inherently a problem, but also good. And what episode 2 does is it scales back the action almost completely. There's no random WWE moves being done anymore. There's no exploding androids or phaser fights or anything like that. And it gets back to what Star Trek always did so brilliantly above every other sci-fi show, and that's its character development and its dialogue. Like, after all, Star Trek's always been about the philosophy it gives us rather than the actual action it gives us, and this whole narrative of the Romulans being not just hateful towards synthetic life forms, but actually fearful of them, feels really interesting. It feels like there might be a wider point about our own planet and our own society deep underneath it. So to get that explored across different scenes with different characters was very exciting. And you know what? I'm going to give the actual Star Trek feel of this episode an up as well, because last week felt like this exciting modern action show set in the Star Trek universe, but this week just feels like Star Trek, and that's what we're here for. Now, yes, a lot of the dialogue was overstuffed with exposition, and a lot of it feels very convenient here and there, but you just kind of got to make peace with that. We need that to get us to where we're going. They've only got 10 episodes to tell a story that is so rooted in Star Trek lore and set so far after the last time we were in this universe. They're gonna kind of need to throw it at us like this. It doesn't make for the best television. It's certainly not the best writing I've ever seen, but you're going to have to put up with it. And while the writers don't really have a choice in this regard, one thing they definitely do have a choice is the amount of different mysteries and dangling narrative threads they're stuffing in all at once. And it's not that I'm not enjoying them, but it does feel like there's slightly too many. And this all kind of comes to a head when we get back to Chateau Picard, and Jean-Luc, who was called upon the services of a former pal from the Stargazer to clear him for active duty, is told that he has a very serious, life-threatening, ultimately fatal neurological condition. Now, on the one hand, I didn't mind this because it felt like a bit of a callback to the Irumodic syndrome that, if you recall, Picard had in the very last episode of The Next Generation. Given that was set across different time frames, it makes sense he would have it here because, well, that was what happened in the future, as far as he was concerned. But at the same time, yes, it's a good callback, yes, it's nice, but this is really cliched. The old legend character comes back for one last adventure with a noble cause behind it. But wait, there is a time limit on these escapades because he has a disease. Something is going to eventually kill him. It's been done so many times before, and this is just a weird pursuit of easy pathos, of easy sort of emotion that the show didn't need. Like, I was invested enough in Picard wanting to do this for Data, not because he himself had sensed his own mortality. They didn't need to do this. And they've already renewed it as well, which kind of gets me. They've already renewed it for season 2, so it kind of feels like if there's going to be some kind of sacrifice, it's going to have to be undone, and it's just, I'm sorry, it's a down. Just to cut through my own rambling there is already enough going on with this show. I am already invested enough emotionally. You didn't need to do this one as well, and it's the oldest trick in the book, and I hope they would be better than that. You've got all the stuff that happened on Mars. What caused the synths to go rogue? Why did they attack the planet? What was all that about? Is Bruce Maddox connected to that, given that he went missing at the time? And has he been experimenting with Data? And has he created 2 daughters of Data based on this painting that he once did? That's like, just, there's a lot. And then you've got the Romulans. What did they want with Data's alleged daughters? And why are they trying to rescue them or trying to capture them or trying to kill them? We don't really know. And what's their relationship to Picard? And have they infiltrated Starfleet? Have they infiltrated their own Borg HQ? And hang on, why have they got a Borg HQ to begin with? What are they doing with that? Is it illicit what they're doing? Is it fine what they're doing? Is it research? Is it weapons? Is it... Look, there's a lot. And that as well is down because you want 2 or 3 really good narrative threads to drag you through this. You don't want a million different things all being pulled at once. And yes, they might well wrap it up into one neat little package. My God, I hope they do. But for now, I'm just kind of sitting there going, what? And some of you will comment and say, oh my God, that's a bit pernickety, or it's a bit of a reach to say there's so much going on that it's a negative. But these are short episodes. They're not an hour. They're not even 45 minutes when you include the recap and the preview of next week's episode. So they just need a little bit more focus. And until we get that, it is unfortunately a negative. And, right, okay, if you turn off after this because I'm being far too critical, then do you know what? I understand. But the swearing, all right? We got a in the first scene. We got a in the second scene, and then when Picard goes to Starfleet to ask for one more crew and one more ship for one more mission, he gets told the hubris of it. Now, I am not a policeman, and I'm certainly not your mother, but this is not okay, right? Like, why are they forcing all these swear words into Star Trek all of a sudden? It feels like an absolute desperate ploy to try and make it feel like a serious adult drama rather than like sci-fi fare, which we know it is and we accept it for and we love. So why do it? Like, I remember in Generations when Data said, "Oh sh," and that was brilliant because it was so incongruous. It felt out of nowhere, so it made it work. But now it's like, here's a swear word, here's a swear word, here's a swear word, look how edgy we are, and just, I don't watch Star Trek because it's edgy, I watch it because it's good. And I'm sorry, you can call me a nerd, you can call me a loser, you can call me whatever, but forcing all this swearing in is a down. If the network is happy for you to have a couple of F-bombs in there, save them for when you really need them. Let me hear Picard say them, because that would pop me. And I promise that's all the downs this week. Considered giving them a down for the Isaac Asimov and the Earl Grey bit because it was just so on the nose you could physically feel it. I didn't like sci-fi. I never really got it. Yes, I get it because you live in sci-fi. You are a sci-fi character. Very clever. I'm not going to give that a down. That actually low-key amused me. And as an aside, did anybody else get really like low-key annoyed when that guy at the desk at Starfleet HQ went, "Name, please"? Come on, you know who that is. Don't be a dick. Right, but we can get back to all the positives now. And the supporting cast! Like, did anybody else, when they announced this show and it was just going to be Picard and there was going to be no real role for Riker or Troy or Crusher or Worf or LaForge or any of the old crew, when they weren't going to be in it in a major capacity, did anybody else think, oh, don't envy the people who are going to be the supporting cast? Because, well, I did, and I have to say, after this week's episodes, I no longer have those concerns. Everybody they've brought in so far has been really good. In particular, I'd like to pull out Admiral Clancy and Commodore O as looking like two of the great supporting Starfleet characters of all time. Like, the shows have never been good at introducing like admirals and other people in the Federation. They always feel a bit plastic and a bit cheap, but these two are great. Like, they're both on the same side, but they're both not on the same side, and I look forward to this pairing going forward. As for the Romulan brother and sister, we shall reserve judgment until future episodes, but signs are largely good. Supporting cast up. Now, I have seen on the old social medias some people saying 2 whole episodes of Picard and he's still not in space. What are they playing at? But come on, it's a 10-episode series, all right? If this was a movie and it was 100 minutes long, we're still in the opening 20 minutes. You've got to pace these things. Episode 3 is clearly going to be about him assembling his crew and getting into space, and I think they've done the build to that perfectly. Episode 1 was a million-mile-an-hour recap of the series lore. Episode 2 was introducing some of the actual stories we're going to be getting into and a few of the characters, and Episode 3 is going to be getting a gang together. You son of a bitch, Jean-Luc, I'm in. Now again, if you've not read the Countdown graphic novels, then Raffi will probably be a new name to you, but she was once Jean-Luc Picard's first officer aboard the USS Verity, which I think was also a Sovereign-class ship like the Enterprise. Anyway, he has a load of missions involving the Romulans while he's not on the Enterprise, and he goes there, and she is the foremost intelligence brain person in the Federation on Romulan affairs. So she's good. And you know what? I just think the way they've paced this and the way they're making Picard fight to get back into the stars, not only is he fighting the Federation to do it, but he's going to be fighting his friends, he's going to be fighting his former colleagues. Nobody's going to want to do this mission. And I think that's a really, really clever way to spin the narrative. So I'm giving this an up as well because it's the hook you're going to need next week. And that is just where we ended the episode. And it feels like I've hardly spoken about the Borg Cube. It was the most interesting thing in the episode, but nothing really happened on it. They just, like, dangled loads of little juicy threads in front of us. Like, it's been 5,000 odd days since the last assimilation. Wink, and oh, there are Borg drones still kicking about doing their thing, but if you just avoid them, everything will be fine. Wink, and oh, one last thing. If this starts flashing, which it totally won't, by the way, just run for your life. If you don't know what Chekhov's gun is, it's ironically named, admittedly, give that a Google. All kinds of bad stuff's gonna happen on this cube, isn't it? Isn't it? I can't wait. So yes, there you have it. That was episode 2 of Star Trek Picard, Maps and Treasures? Maps and Legends, that's what it was called. And while being a jarring shift in both tone and pace from episode 1, feels more like the show we have strapped in to watch. I really enjoyed it. It kind of exposes the slight flaw in the ups and downs system. That's quite a close score, but I thought it was way better than it was bad. And given that I've seen a lot of people still being quite unsold on this show, I would dare say, if it hasn't got you after these first 2 episodes, that's it. Don't waste your time. Sit this one out. Leave it to people like me and I hope you who are just going to enjoy it. But as ever, I'm far more interested to know what you all made of it, so let me know in the comments below. And of course, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. What's that? Why, yes, we have launched a new channel here at What Culture. Trek Culture is boldly going where no What Culture channel has gone before. So be sure to subscribe to that, seek out the social medias, and tell all of your friends, which I'm sure you have. And yes, if you're sat there and thinking, wait, what? They're starting a Star Trek channel, but I love Star Trek, / know absolutely everything about it, / I'm looking for freelance editing and writing work. What can I do to get involved? Well, maybe head over to whatculture.com and you might find something that you both like and can reward you financially. I'm trying to say we're hiring. I don't know why I made that so complicated. But yes, thank you so much for watching. I will see you very, very soon. I have, of course, been Adam Clery. They're not going to buy me a uniform, but it's fine because I actually prefer this jacket. And I will see you soon. Farewell.